How's it going, everybody? DB back with another NFL rankings video. This time we're going to be ranking in a tier list the skill position groups in the NFL. So this is wide receivers, tight ends, and running backs. We've got all 32 teams here down at the bottom of this tier list, and we're going to put them in order. So first off, it will be divided into the groups that you see. So S is at the top, A, B, C, D. And then not only that, but I'll also be going left to right in the group. So the closer you are to the S here, basically just means the higher up you are. So it'll be first through whatever, stuff like that. All right, so let's jump right into it. The Falcons, pretty easy D tier. They've got Cordero Patterson as their number one running back. Kyle Pitts is good, but he's not enough to save that offense. So the Falcons are going to be going in the D tier. The Jets, so the Jets have two of the best, I think, offensive rookies in the class in Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson. They also got C.J. Uzomah in free agency from the Bengals, which I think is a really good tight end addition for them. But my big question is, how are the rookies going to perform? We don't have any NFL film on those guys. They were obviously very good in college, very great in college. So we'll see. I'm going to put them in C tier for now. They've got very high potential. They could be B very easily by the end of the year. I wouldn't even surprised to see them maybe even low A tier by the end of the year. But with just two big question marks in rookies on the offensive side, excuse me, I'm going to put them in C tier. Dallas is interesting because they've got Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard splitting carries. They've also got CeeDee Lamb is now the wide receiver one. No more Amari Cooper. They still have Michael Gallup. They also have Dalton Schultz. At tight end. So Dallas is an interesting one. I'm going to put them high B tier for now, but that could move up or down depending on the other teams as we move forward in this. Baltimore, they lost Marquise Brown. They've got good running backs in J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. They have really good tight end in Mark Andrews. They've also got Charlie Kohler, which is a really good upside for them. But, man, that wide receiver room without Marquise Brown, they're led by Rashad Bateman. That is not where you want to be. I'm going to put them ahead of the Jets. Actually, am I? No, I'm not even going to put them ahead of the Jets. Baltimore, stinky wide receiver room. Get it better. Buffalo, going to be the first A-tier team here. Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis, pretty good wide receiver duo there for them. I do have questions around Devin Singletary being the lone wide receiver one, or running back one, and then their tight ends are pretty questionable. So they'll probably slide lower down the A tier here as we move along, but they'll be A tier for now. Speaking of sliding down the A tier, let's just slide the Rams in ahead of them in the A tier. Cooper Kupp, obviously, arguably the best receiver in football last year, along with Devontae Adams of the Packers, now Raiders. And then they replaced Odell Beckham Jr. and Robert Woods with Van Jefferson and Allen Robinson. So I think they went down a little bit for wide receivers 2 and 3, but that's still a pretty good wide receiver 2 and 3 for them to have. They've also got Darrell Henderson and Cam Akers at running back. I think that's a really good complementary duo, very similar to Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon of the Packers. And then tight end, they've got Tyler Higbee. Not a whole lot beyond that, but top to bottom better than the Bills. So we'll put the Rams in A tier. The Bears, next on the list. My man, David Montgomery. His jersey's in the closet. You can't see it because of where the webcam cuts off, but got his jersey in the closet. That's the only Bears jersey I'm going to ever buy a jersey for. But David Montgomery's not enough to save that group. They're better than the Falcons because I think Darnell Mooney is better than any wide receiver on the Falcons. Their wide receiver one is Drake London for Atlanta. So Darnell Mooney is going to be better than him. Drake London has a higher upside, I think, being like the 8th overall pick or whatever. But again, being that rookie, having those questions, the Bears are going to be higher than the Falcons here on this tier list, top to bottom. That's just how highly I think of David Montgomery. Not high enough to put him in C tier, but high enough to put him ahead of Kyle Pitts. The Arizona Cardinals obviously lost Christian Kirk, but they gained Marquise Brown, so I think that's a positive for them. They also have Zach Ertz, who they got at the trade deadline last year, so tight end 1 locked down. They did lose Chase Edmonds, but they still have James Conner. So I'm gonna have the Cardinals in A tier. They're very close with the Bills. I could see that going to either team, giving either team the edge. I think I'm actually gonna put the Cardinals 1 slot ahead of them though, based on that wide receiver room. I think if Marquise Hollywood Brown is your wide receiver, well, he'll be 2 behind D-Hop, and then AJ Green I think is still on that team. He'll be better than the Bills' 3rd option. And then the Cardinals are better at tight end and running back, so we'll have the Cardinals ahead of them. The Texans, pretty easy bottom here. I think they have Brandon Cooks, who is probably just the best player on their team, but I don't know who their running backs are, and I don't know who their tight end is. I don't even think I could name a wide receiver outside of Brandon Cooks. So if there's any Texans fans watching this, leave in the comments down below if I'm wrong about this and they have somebody that I missed. Yeah, just let me know, because I don't know anybody outside of Brandon Cooks. So they're pretty easy D tier here for me, for the Houston Texans. Next up, the Seattle Seahawks. So they've got Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf, which is probably the best wide receiver duo out of the teams we've seen. They also have Rashad Penny. They drafted Kenneth Walker, and they have Chris Carson if he ever plays again. I know he's been dealing with head and neck stuff. So hopefully he gets all that figured out, makes a good decision for him, whether that's playing in the NFL again or not. And then tight end. Who's their tight end? They got Noah Fant from the Broncos in the trade, and then is it Will Dissly is still on the Seahawks? That's a really good skill position group. That I think that's better than Buffalo. It's definitely better than Dallas. I think it's better than Buffalo. Actually, I'm going to move Buffalo down to B tier, actually, ahead of Dallas, but still behind Seattle. Yeah, that's a really good group for Seattle. They don't have a quarterback, because their quarterback is currently Drew Lock or Geno Smith, but they've got a really good group around the quarterbacks, other than the offensive line. So we'll put Seattle A tier. First S tier, Minnesota. They might stay the top spot throughout this entire thing. Dalvin Cook, Alexander Madison, top 4 probably running back duo. Depending on where you rank Alexander Madison, he's done very well filling in when Dalvin Cook's hurt. They got one of the best kick returners in the game, Kene Nwangu. Definitely no bias from me there. And then obviously I haven't even mentioned Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen yet. Again, probably right up there with DK and Tyler Lockett, best wide receiver duo. Probably better, honestly. Justin Jefferson carries that. Adam Thielen's still good for being how old he is. That's the one question, other than Irv Smith's health, that's the one question I have about the Vikings skill positions, is when, if ever, does the Adam Thielen fall off come? Because I think he's 31 now. So he's getting up there. But for now, Vikings, we'll leave them up there in S tier. Jacksonville, another pretty easy D tier here. They got ETN and James Robinson. They've got Christian Kirk as their number 1 wide receiver, I believe, right now. It's not where I want to be. I don't typically like wide receiver 3 moving up to wide receiver 1. But Trevor Lawrence, I hope you proved me wrong with that wide receiver tight end group. I couldn't even tell you who their tight end is. But yeah, that's pretty easy D tier for me. New England's an interesting one in that they're not good, but they somehow win games. Gee, I wonder how that is. Maybe Coach Belichick has something to do with it. I don't know. But they're pretty bad. They traded away N'Keal Harry, which probably made the team better, which not something you typically want out of your teams. Their running back duo of Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson, probably better than David Montgomery and whoever the second running back for the Bears is nowadays. And then tight end. Don't they have Hunter Henry, who's better than Cole Kmet? So yeah, I'll put the Patriots bottom of C tier, just ahead of Chicago, but not any higher than that. These C tiers are, pretty close. The Jets have the question mark of rookies, but I think the upside keeps them ahead of Baltimore and New England. So the Giants have Saquon Barkley and Kadarius Toney, who doesn't want to be there. Sterling Shepard, Kenny Golladay, who I thought was going to be very good for them after getting traded off the Lions, but he was abysmal last year. They lost Evan Ingram, so their tight ends got worse. It seems like another pretty easy low spot to be in for the Giants. I think ETN and James Robinson are better collectively than Barkley and whoever the backup to Saquon Barkley is, who I'll probably then know the name of very soon after Saquon inevitably gets hurt. Obviously, not wishing anybody an injury, but just looking at the facts, which is why when we get to Carolina, we'll have to know who Chuba Hubbard is. But yeah, hopefully, I'm looking at this as all these guys are going to be healthy. All these guys are going to play a full 17-game season. All these guys are going to perform. So that's just how we got to look at it. We can't really look at injuries, especially before the season starts. So moving on, San Francisco. So San Francisco, they got Deebo Samuel. They've got Brandon Ayuk. They've got really good tight end in George Kittle. They've got Elijah Mitchell at running back. So they've got guys that I can name. Pretty good start for them. Are they better than the Seahawks? George Kittle's definitely better than Will Dissly. Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel not better than Lockett, DK, and their collective. The problem is the 49ers have about 19 running backs that I've never heard of, but they'll all rush for 100 yards in a game at some point this season. So I don't think I could put them ahead of Seattle, but they're still in A tier. I think they're better than Buffalo. Actually, yeah, George Kittle's really good. George Kittle's really good. But this is as a whole, so one guy can't elevate you up super far. You'll see that when we get to cough cough Indianapolis and Tennessee, cough cough with their one guy. But yeah. So we'll have the San Francisco A tier. Tampa Bay. So they've got, I'm actually going to pull up Tampa Bay because I know Gronkowski retired. So I know they lost him, but they still have, to my knowledge, they also lost Ronald Jones. Okay, let's take a look here. So Leonard Fournette, Rachaad White, Keyshawn Vaughn. Not terrible three running backs. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, really good wide receiver duo. Russell Gage, Tyler Johnson, Brashad Perriman, Cyril Grayson. I mean, Tom Brady will make all these guys 1,000-yard receivers, so, but can't look at Tom Brady. And then they did sign Kyle Rudolph to basically replace Rob Gronkowski as old tight end. And then they also have Cameron Brate. So, man, that's pretty good. That's probably an A. That's probably an A tier. So, Leonard Fournette, I think Rachaad White's going to be really good. Rachaad White out of Arizona State. And then Keyshawn Vaughn, I think Keyshawn Vaughn was actually pretty solid for them last year at points. An all right receiving back, maybe? I don't know. And then Gio Bernard's getting kind of old, though, so he probably won't play too much. But yeah, losing Gronk kind of hurts him a little bit. But Kyle Rudolph's not bad. I just have memories of Kyle Rudolph snagging one-handers in the back of the end zone against everybody. I'm actually going to bump the Rams up to S tier. And then I'm going to have the Bucks. They're right in this group. Right in here with Seattle, San Francisco. I'll put them at the front because that's how highly I think of Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. But yeah, running back and tight end a little scary for Tampa, but I think they'll figure it out. So I'll have Tampa just ahead of Seattle. Cleveland's very good. They've got probably the best running back duo in Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. They got Amari Cooper from the Cowboys, but they lost Odell and Jarvis Landry last year and in the offseason. So that means they have Donovan Peoples-Jones, and did they draft David Bell out of Purdue? I want to say they drafted David Bell. I'm going to confirm that real quick, but I think they drafted David Bell, who I think is going to be really good. Yeah, they did. And then tight ends, they have David Njoku and Harrison Bryant. So I'm going to have the Browns just ahead of Tampa, I think. Are they better than Arizona? Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt is really good. They're right up there with Arizona. Those two teams are real close on skill positions. I think best running back duo has them ever so slightly getting the edge, but those two teams are very close. Next up, the Saints. Okay, so the Saints are an interesting one because Michael Thomas was hurt all of last year. I haven't heard any updates, which maybe that's a good thing, but I have no idea what Michael Thomas is going to be doing. Also, there's the Alvin Kamara thing, where he committed assault or battery or something in Las Vegas. I think it was during the Pro Bowl or Pro Bowl weekend, and I haven't heard anything about that either. I don't know if there's a trial going on. I don't know if he's going to be suspended. I have no idea what's going on with those two guys. Outside of that, they've got Mark Ingram still at running back. He'll probably start the year RB1, and then Kamara will inevitably come off of a suspension or whatever. Then at wide receiver, they've got Michael Thomas. They drafted Chris Olave. They have Callaway, I know, is on that team. I think there's one other guy that I'm missing. And then tight end, they've got Troutman and Taysom Hill, I think, are their two tight ends, basically. So the Saints without Kamara and Thomas would probably be in C tier. So I don't know how to rank them. I might just leave them off the list. No, you know what? I pretended that the Deshaun Watson stuff wasn't going to happen, which obviously it is, but he was listed as a starting quarterback on that QB quiz thing that I took. So I'm just going to pretend that Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara are both going to start and play 17 games. And if that's the case, the Saints are probably up here with the Seahawks and Bucks. They're probably up here. Without them, they're probably down here. That's how big of a jump I think it is with those two guys. Mostly Alvin Kamara. That's how highly I think of Alvin Kamara. I'll leave the Saints up in A for now, but just know that there's a massive, I don't know if I'll edit it in, but just know that there's a massive question mark. You guys probably didn't even see that. Massive question mark with the Saints. The Bengals. Bengals are S. They've got Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Taj Boyd as their top three wide receivers. They've got Joe Mixon as their starting running back. They lost C.J. Uzomah. If C.J. Uzomah was still on that team, they might compete with the Vikings for the top spot. But without him, I don't know who their tight end is. So I'm going to leave the Bengals third currently on this list. And then we'll go from there. Tennessee. So they've got we got Derrick Henry. They don't have A.J. Brown anymore. I'll be honest, I don't know the Titans roster off the top of my head. I can't name anybody outside of Derrick Henry. So the reason that I'm doing this tier list is because ESPN did a skill positions tier or ranking, and they had the Packers 29th and the Titans were 19th. And I'm like, I don't know who on the Titans is. I'm going to look it up just so I know. But I don't know who's on the Titans without A.J. Brown. So they've got Derrick Henry, and they drafted Hassan Haskins out of Michigan. So he'll probably be a fine RB2. Oh, so they drafted Treylon Burks, and then they got Robert Woods, either from the Rams or in free agency. And then their tight end is Austin Hooper. Okay, so that's why I didn't know anybody, is because none of these players were on this team last year. That's why I don't know anybody on the Titans, because none of them were on the Titans last year. Okay, that makes a little bit more sense. But I still don't think outside of Derrick Henry, this group is all that impressive. Obviously, question mark with Treylon Burks. Robert Woods, isn't Robert Woods coming off an injury? Yeah, he played 9 games last year. So he's coming off an injury. He was also wide receiver 3 for the Rams last year, even before the injury. So I'm going to have the Titans probably B tier, which is a very, very big insult to Derrick Henry. But he's still going to be the only guy on that team. I feel bad saying that because they actually have people that I just didn't know were on the team, but I'm still not all that impressed with them. So they'll be B for now, but we'll see how that goes later on. Washington, so they've got Gibson at running back. They've got Terry McLaurin, and I don't know who else. So let's pull that one up. Washington. So they've got Gibson and, McKissick's their other running back. They've got Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel. They drafted Jahan Dotson out of Penn State. And then, Logan Thomas. Logan Thomas is a pretty good tight end. But I feel like this team kind of falls pretty similarly to the Titans. Like, they have Gibson, McKissick, which is fine. I know Antonio Gibson is good, but I think he's a little overrated. I know, blasphemy. I think somebody's overrated. I'm gonna put them behind Tennessee. I think they're fine, but they're not great. So they're B tier. Indianapolis. They're going right with Tennessee, right ahead of Washington. So Indy's got Jonathan Taylor, obviously, and then they got Nyheim Hines and somebody else. Do they have somebody else? He was on the Broncos. Phillip Lindsay. I think he's on the Colts. And then they've got what's his name? Michael Pittman. They've got I don't know. Paris Campbell, who's always hurt, but again, looking at it, fully healthy. And then Alec Pierce, I think, is their wide receiver 3. And then tight ends, they have I can't remember his name. It's right on the tip of my tongue. I can't remember it. I know who it is. But I can't remember his name. Mo Alley Cox. That's his name. Okay, so they're very similar to Tennessee in that they're not bad, but it's still basically one guy. But that one guy is pretty good, but the rest of what they have isn't better than what the rest of Tennessee has. I think it's better than Washington, though, because Jonathan Taylor's just that good. Derrick Henry's just that good. So those two are basically inseparable to me. Green Bay. So Green Bay was ranked 29th, which would put them where Jacksonville is right now. If I put all of these teams ahead of the D tier, if I put all these teams at least C tier, the Packers would be where Jacksonville is. I think that's ridiculous. Not ahead of Tennessee, because I said those two were inseparable. Green Bay's better than... So Green Bay was listed behind Washington, New York, Baltimore, New England, Atlanta, and Jacksonville. They were ahead of the Texans, the Giants, and the Bears. Those were the 3 teams that they were ahead of in the ESPN ranking. A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones, they've got to be a top 3 running back duo. They're right up there with... I think they're just behind Hunt and Chubb. I think they're right up there with Cook, Madison. They're right up there with Zeke and Pollard. They're right up there. Alan Lazard scored 8 touchdowns and had, I think, like 700-some yards last year. And that was his wide receiver 2 with Aaron Rodgers only throwing the ball to Devontae Adams. Lazard had 513 yards, 8 touchdowns last year, with Rodgers only throwing the ball to Lazard, or only throwing the ball to Adams. And then they've got Tonyan DeGuara and Big Dog Mercedes Lewis at tight end. Like, the Packers are better than 29th at skill position. They're not like Arizona. They're not Minnesota, right? they're better than 29th is what I'm getting at. That's what's important here. But that's enough about me rambling. I've already rambled for 25 minutes. The Panthers. Panthers are kind of in this similar spot. They've got Christian McCaffrey, who's really good. Chuba Hubbard's a bit of a drop-off as much as I love him. They've got a really good wide receiver duo, DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson. And then their tight end is pretty close. Oh, I don't know who their tight end is. They're right there with Green Bay, though. They're right there with Green Bay. I'll leave them ahead of Green Bay on the upside that Christian McCaffrey doesn't get hurt. But without Christian McCaffrey, they're below Green Bay. So they're right there. The Chargers. Chargers have one of the better wide receiver duos in Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. They've got Austin Eckler is a really underrated running back. I don't know who their tight end is. I know they had Hunter Henry, but he's on the Patriots now. I don't know who their tight end is. But I think pretty highly of Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. And Austin Eckler is really good. So I'll put him right behind Dallas. Because Dallas, Zeke and Pollard's a really good punch. And then they've still got CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup and then Dalton Schultz. So I'll put them right behind Dallas, but still ahead of the two teams that are basically one guy. Philadelphia. Philadelphia's interesting. They're going to be pretty close here to Green Bay. They've got Devontae Smith, and they got A.J. Brown from the Titans. They've got Miles Sanders, Boston Scott at running back, and then I don't know who their tight end's Dallas Goedert. So I'm actually going to move them just ahead of Green Bay. But they'll be solid. They'll be solid. That defense is really good. I think the defense will be really good for both these teams, Philly and Green Bay. And I'll have them kind of middle of the road here when it comes to the skill positions. Kansas City, they lost Tyreek Hill. They still have Mecole Hardman. They got Juju Smith-Schuster and Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Their running back position kind of scares me because Clyde Edwards-Helaire has not been all that great. I don't know who their second running back is. Let me just double check that real quick before I slide them into a position here. Oh, Ronald Jones from Tampa. He might honestly be their best running back. And then obviously Travis Kelce is very good. So Kansas City, pretty high B tier, maybe even A tier. I think their wide receivers are better than San Francisco's. Kittle and Kelce are really close. And then their running backs, I think, as a whole are really close. San Francisco might have an edge on running backs, but Kansas City definitely has an edge on wide receivers. So we'll put them pretty close. Kansas City and San Francisco really close here. Denver, I think is really good. Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick at wide receiver. Wide receiver. They've got, don't know who their tight end is now that they lost Noah Fant. And then they've got Javonte Williams, Melvin Gordon. Pretty good 1-2 punch there. I'll put them just behind Tampa, I think. And then again, the Saints. It's really hard to rank the Saints, but I think I'll leave them just behind Denver here. The Raiders. Raiders will be an S tier here, along with the Bengals, Rams, and Vikings. Devontae Adams, Darren Waller, Hunter Renfrow, Josh Jacobs. I think Josh Jacobs is going to have a better year. Teams might be playing the pass a little bit more with Oakland, or Las Vegas, excuse me. So I like Josh Jacobs to have a little bit better of a year. They also got not Chase Edmonds. They have somebody else who's a good running back. Kenyon Drake, I think, is their second running back. He's a fine RB2. Next up, Detroit. So Detroit has T.J. Hawkinson, really good tight end. They've got DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams, really good 1-2 punch at running back. Their wide receiver room is a little iffy to me. So Amon-Ra St. Brown had a really good end of the year last year. They have who else do they have? I'm gonna double check their wide receiver room here before I rank them. I would probably have them B tier regardless. But let me just double check the Detroit wide receiver room. Oh, they got DJ Chark, okay, and then Jameson Williams, a rookie that they drafted coming off an injury. I think that's better than Carolina. TJ Hawkinson is basically the Christian McCaffrey of the Panthers or of the Lions. DeAndre Swift and Jamal. Yeah, I'll put him ahead of Carolina. They're either right in front of Tennessee and Indy or right behind Tennessee and Indy. I think their wide receiver room might be better. It's a little unproven, but I think upside. Well, no, I punished the Jets. I didn't give the Jets the upside, so we'll have the Lions B tier. The Dolphins picked up Tyreek Hill. They got Mike Gesicki at tight end. They have a plethora of running backs now. It's not just Myles Gaskin, who was not all that good. They've got Chase Edmonds and Raheem Mostert. Raheem Mostert, if he can stay healthy, really good receiving back. Really good speed. They also have Sony Michel. They got Mike Gesicki, like I said, at wide receiver. They got Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Cedric Wilson's their wide receiver 3. So I like the Dolphins skill positions. They're pretty close here with Buffalo, I think. They're right up here at the top of B tier. And then the Steelers, Najee Harris. They still have Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson, Pat Freiermuth. They're pretty close to Green Bay. I'll give Green Bay the slight edge. But yeah, so top to bottom, we got Vikings, Rams, Bengals, Raiders, Browns, Cardinals, Bucks, Broncos, Saints, Seahawks, Chiefs, Niners, Bills, Dolphins, Cowboys, Chargers, Titans, Colts, Lions, Panthers, Eagles, Packers, Steelers, Commanders, Jets, Ravens, Patriots, Bears, Falcons, Jags, Giants, and Texans. So there you have it, my skill position rankings for the NFL. Again, top to bottom, left to right, or left to right for you guys. So Vikings at 1, the Rams are 2. These top 2 are really close. The top 2 are very close. But I'll put the Vikings at 1. Now, you know what? I'm going to put the Rams at 1. I can't do it. I can't put the Vikings 1. So Rams are 1, Vikings are 2. And there you have it, my skill positions tier list and rankings for the NFL upcoming season. Let me know in the comments who you disagree with, who you agree with, what team did I wildly under or overrate. But there you have it, the final rankings for me. That's going to do it for this episode. I'm sorry it took 32 minutes, but that's basically 1 minute a team. So, I think I squeezed it in there pretty nicely. But yeah, that's going to do it for me. Again, let me know in the comments what you think. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. Click that like button if you enjoyed what you saw. Click the bell icon to get notified whenever I go live, whenever I upload a video. Plenty of stuff coming up for the fall 2022 football, college, and pro seasons. So that's going to do it for me. I will see you guys next time. Peace out.